Hello, everybody. Welcome to Module 10, Basic Router Configurations, Intro to Cisco. My name is Mr. Tandy at Tandy IT, and it's time to start putting together a router, right? Because you need a router in order for networks to communicate with each other, right? I want you to think of the configurations of a router. Essentially, it's going back to that UPS truck, going back to that big UPS or that Amazon facility. There's some settings that have to be taken care of inside that facility so those trucks can go out on the correct roads, right? So those trucks can go out on the correct avenues, that network media, right? Those streets, things of that nature. So we're going to kind of get into that a little bit here with the basic router configurations. So implement initial settings on the router. We're going to configure initial routing settings, configure initial settings on the iOS Cisco router, configure two active interfaces on the Cisco iOS router, and configure devices using the default gateway. We're going to talk about the default gateway a lot. Default gateway a lot is very, very important when we talk about the default gateway. Now, configure initial router settings. All right, so essentially when you are getting into your router, some basic things that we have to get taken care of. Things that are very, very basic. The host name, got to enable the secret password for privilege exec. We need to have the remote stuff taken care of, SSH, so you can remote into it. And then on top of that, we need a little bit of cybersecurity, right? You need to be able to secure all the information. That way nobody can see anything. And we need to provide legal notification. So that's that banner of the day, that message. Like, hey, don't come in here, otherwise I am going to take all your data or something like that, right? Some type of a message. Commands for basic router configurations. Configuration is saved to the NVRAM RAM, so you got to write memory at the end, or you can put copy running config. I typically like to do the write memory command, but that's okay. I'll show you all that stuff here in a minute. But we're going to configure the host name, enable secret, line console, password, login, and all that good stuff. You can kind of see all this information here, right? And just a little bit, we're going to go over a packet tracer. We're going to go through this stuff so I can show it to you, okay? Configure interfaces. Configuring the router interface includes issuing the following commands. So we have the interface and the type of the number. We have the description of it, IP address, whether it be IP version 4 or IP version 6. Take note, after your IP version 4 address, you typically need to put the subnet mask right after that. And then no shut. No shut essentially is keeping that line on so that communication can go. The no shut. Also think of the no shut as a road closure on a residential street, or when you're trying to get home, there's construction and no shut. Open up the road so people can go home. If it's shut down, there's obstructions, nobody can get through. There's no communication that can go through. It is good practice to use the description commands to add information about the network connected to the interface. The no shut command activates the interface, absolutely. So when you put down no shut, that means that it's going to stay open, right? Commands to configure the interface on the router shown here. Got to get into config mode, right? Got to go config. You type in interface and then the gigabit, or this might say fast Ethernet, and then you want to select the number that you're trying to configure. Then has a description, IP address, and no shut. Obviously, again, this means to keep that line open. And then you're going to exit. Pretty simple. To verify interface configuration, use the show IP interface brief command. So you're going to show to see what's going on with the configuration. Now, typically for me, what I like to do this first. I like to have this up and running first. As soon as I log in to the machine, as soon as I log into the Cisco iOS, I like to run this command first so I can kind of see what interfaces are up, to see what's connected to what with the VLAN is. Just get the initial configuration, kind of see what's going on there. Then if I wanted to show IP version 6, you can also do that as well. So here's some of the commands, and we will go through a few of these, not all of these, but we'll go through a few of these. Show IP interface brief, IP version 6, show IP route, and show IP interfaces, which display IP version 4, statistics, all that good stuff. View statistics on interfaces with the show IP interface brief, okay? You can see this here in this example. It shows that gigabit 000 has a IP address 192.168.10.1, and it's up. It's absolutely up. So quick question, just to make sure that you're following along with these lectures. If this status is up, does this mean it's on a no shut or is it shut? Here's the second question to make sure that you are watching these lectures. VLAN 1 here. It says the protocol is down. What command would you type in to make that to go up? Send me an email. Let me know what that's all about there. All right, display the contents of IP routes. You would type in show IP route. This essentially shows the different interfaces and which route they're going to take. Right, the different routes that they're going to take to get to where it needs to get to. All the things that are plugged into it. Display statistics for all interfaces with the show interfaces commands that shows all of the information. So there's quite a bit of info. To me, sometimes this looks like a lot of Swahili, a lot of gibberish, but you break it down and it's not too bad. Display IP version 4 statistics, routers interfaces with show IP interface, and this shows all of the information that's going on with the interface, right? So if you want to specifically look at the interface, this gigabit interface, it'll give you all the information on what's going on with it. And same thing with IP version 6. If you have IP version 6 set up, then you can also see as well that it'll give you all the statistics for IP version 6. Now, configure the default gateway. So before we get into actually, let's get into this first, and then I'm going to show you something here in a second, then we'll do a packet tracer. So the default gateway, and I'm going to give you a picture. Actually, you know what? Let me do it anyway. So before we talk about the default gateway, I want to go back to this picture. See if we remember this picture here. If you remember my earlier videos, this is a cul-de-sac. And let me pull out my wonderful pen here. Okay. So we said this is a cul-de-sac, and every one of these homes are in the same neighborhood. All in the same neighborhood. Use it a little bit darker. A little bit darker there. So every one of these homes are in the same neighborhood, right? Okay? They're all in the same neighborhood. Each one of these houses are dynamic. They have dynamic addresses. So this, for example, this would be house number 1. We'll call this house number 2, house number 3, house number 4, house number 5, and then 6. Those look like they're both together. Now, since they have dynamic numbers, 1 through 6, they're all still living in the same area. So that means they're pretty much on the same street. Therefore, since they're on the same street, they're going to have the same subnet mask. And if you remember my earlier videos, I said the subnet mask is essentially the zip code of a housing area, right? It is the zip code because the zip code, they're all in the same zip code. So let me erase that. Now you got that concept. We have the houses that are being dynamic, different numbers. And then we have the subnet, which is the street. They're all in the same zip code. Now, let's go back to what I used to say all the time about the post office. If these people in these homes want to go drop mail in the mailbox, let's just actually put a little fake mailbox right here. There's my little mailbox, okay? And if each if each people in these homes want to go drop mail off, where's the mail going to go? Yes, it is going to go to the post office. So if they're all going to use the mailbox, that means every single one of them, they use the same default gateway. Okay, default gateway. I want you to think of this in Cisco Packet Tracer as the router. And I want you to think of these little lines as these little interfaces or these little walkways for these people to get to their mailbox to drop off their mail. So the default gateway is the router. So don't forget that. Every time you see the default gateway, that is a router. So here's my next question. Make sure you are paying attention as well. If these homes are dynamic and every one of these homes are on the same subnet, which is a zip code, and physically, as you can see in the physical location that this mailbox is here, would this also mean that the mailbox also has the same subnet? Send me an email. Give me your answer on that. Let me know what you think. All right, let's close this down here. Move on here. So the default gateway is used when a host sends a packet to a device on another network. That's correct. So if you want to send that mail to another network, i.e. another neighborhood, i.e. another state, things of that nature, you're going to need a router, right? There has to be some type of a router to move that traffic. The default gateway address is generally the router interface address attached to the local network. That is correct. So in this example, as you can see, this is on the 192.168.10.0 network with a WAC 24. Okay. And they're going to send traffic over here to the 192.168.11.0 network. These are two different networks. And I know the two different networks because we have a WAC 24 because the first 24 bits are on, which gives me a subnet mask of, send me an email on that one as well. Got a lot of emails you have to send me for this video. So since these are on different subnets, you're going to need a router in order to route the information. So here's another good example of this. Let me pull out my pen again. You like that? Pen again. I want you to think of, here's our mailbox again. Okay. I want you to think of that mail truck that's going to come in here and grab the mail. I want you to think of this as a street, cul-de-sac. And I want you to think of this as another street, cul-de-sac. Maybe somewhere in the same vicinity, but not on the same street. So in order for mail to get here, it's going to need the router in order to route to it. So that's another good example on how that would look there. Okay, let's move on here. The default gateway on a switch. The switch must have a default gateway address configured to remote manage the switch from another network. So you got to have the default gateway set on the router, usually typically on the VLAN. You got to have it set in order to remote into that. To configure IP version 4 default gateway on the switch, use the IP default gateway IP address global configuration command. We will go through all this so I can show this to you in Packet Tracer. All right, so I have basic little topology that I have set up. I got 3 PCs, switch, and the router. So let's get into the router because this video was the get into the initial configurations of the router. So because I love doing extra stuff, what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to console into that router using this computer here. I'm going to console cable. And I'm also going to set up another console cable with this PC to the switch. So I'm not going to go in and use the actual GUI just by clicking on the router, the intermediary device. I'm just going to use the console cable. So let's go to the computer and let's go to desktop. Let's go to terminal and let's click OK. Let's get going here. So would you like to enter initial configuration dialog? The answer is no, because you guys are all professionals. We're all professionals. We're going to do this correctly. Now, first thing I like to do, absolute first thing I like to do typically when I'm doing these routers, or even when I'm doing the switch for that matter, I'm automatically going to get into enable mode. So I'm going to get into the privilege exec, and I'm going to type in the show running config file. Now I do this because I want to see what's already in here. Now I'm sure I'm already knowing this is pretty much brand new, right? There's nothing in here, nothing's been configured. However, in the real world, if I were to get called in to work on a switch or a router, or if somebody needs some help, I'm going to run this command first. The reason why is so I can see essentially what needs to be configured, what's not configured, and just kind of give me a little rough idea. So right now, as you can see, by running this command, there is no service password encryption, so everything's wide open, okay? No IP version 6 certificate. I'm going to keep pressing enter. Spanning tree is already enabled. Essentially what spanning tree is, you'll learn that in switching and routing, the next Cisco class. That deals with Ethernet to make sure there's no broadcast storms. And as you can see here, we have gigabit 000. No IP addresses are associated with that. And let's continue. And that is it. There's nothing else. There is nothing else here. So let's do the initial. Okay, let's get into configuration mode. So let's go to config T, config terminal, and we're going to change the host name. That's the first thing we're going to do. We're going to change the host name. So let's go host name, and let's call it Marvel, because I am a Marvel fan. Big time Marvel fan. Okay. By the way, email me your favorite Marvel character if you are a Marvel fan. So as you can see here, we have the name Marvel, which has been switched to Marvel. Okay. Now I'm going to enable secret password. So let's type in enable. Okay. I'm sorry. Actually, I screwed that up. Enable secret. And I want to give it a password. Let's stay with the Marvel theme. I want to say it the Marvel theme. One of my favorite Marvel characters is Captain America. So I'm going to call it Captain America. All one word. There we go. So I enabled the password, enable secret password, right? Which was Captain America. So staying with the Marvel theme. All right. Now, initially what I want to do is, as you can tell, let's do this. I want to show you this. Let me get out of this so you can see this. Now, you see how I'm able to just hit enter when I initially get into the router, and it automatically gives me the prompt. There's nothing there. There's no login or anything like that. So let's fix that. So we'll go back into enable. There's my enable password. We're going to call that Captain America. Okay. So now we're in there. Now we're going to take care of our initial line console. So watch this. We're going to go line console 0. I'm all messed up. I forgot to go config T. See? Sometimes I get screwed up here. All right. Line console 0. All right. Yeah, this is when my sons tell me when I'm throwing. I forgot to put the E in there. So line console 0, and I'm going to type in password, and we're going to stick with the Marvel. Let's do another Marvel character. Let's put Thor as the line console password. I'm going to press enter. Now, I want this to be a login. So I want to log in. Okay. And after I log in, I'm going to type in exit. Exit again. All right. So if everything's done correctly, okay, as soon as I press enter, I should have my line console initiate, or should have me put in the password just to get it to line console. And there we go. So we're good to go. And I think we said it was Thor, which was the password in the line console. And as you can see, we are in user exec mode. And as soon as we get into privilege exec, that does require a password, and that was Captain America. And there we go. Okay, so now we have already configured the line console password to get into the router, just initial settings, and then we also enabled the password, the secret password for privilege exec. Now we have a password on that as well. Now let me go out of this again so you can actually see this. Okay, let me go out of this because I want you to see how the configuration file is starting to get built now. Okay, so we're going to go Thor, we're going to go enable, and we're going to put Captain America. Now I'm going to type in a show running config command, and let's see what we got here. Now, beforehand, we didn't have this initiated. Now we have the word Marvel. There's our host name. That has been changed. Enable secret. This is encrypted. Very good. So we have no idea what that is. Before, we didn't see that there. Okay. Let's continue on. Spanning tree still on. Still nothing on interfaces. Our VLAN is not set yet or anything like that. So here's our line console. Our password set to Thor. Right? Password is set to Thor for line console. That's to get in to the router. So that's good to go there, and there's the end. So we're starting to get some things that are populated here. Things are starting to get populated. Now, one thing I don't like is the fact that this right here is in plain text. We'll take care of that here in just a second. All right. Now, next thing we're going to do is configure a banner of the day. Well, excuse me, a message of the day by configuring a banner. So we're going to need to get into config T, okay? And we're going to type in banner, and we're going to type in message of the day and have the hashtag right after that, okay? Now it tells me to enter some text. Now, what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to add like a little border here when I do this. And then right underneath that, I'm going to type in Nick Fury is a scroll. So be advised, he may come looking for you. Do not do anything crazy. Right, okay. And then I'm just going to add another little border. And then to conclude it, I'm going to type in the little @ sign. That tells me that I'm done, and I'm going to press enter. And I'm going to hit exit. I'm going to go exit again. Uh-oh, excuse me. I think I might have messed that up. I apologize. Let's see here. Should be, there we go. I forgot. It was the number key. Stops it, so it ends it all. And obviously this is going to kind of show up because I did a little extra there. Let me back out of this, and then back out of here again, press enter, and there we go. Now, because I hit the wrong key, the @ sign, I should have hit the number sign. The words exit got placed in there, but I think you get the idea, you see. Here's my banner of the day. Nick Fury is a scroll, so be advised, he may come looking for you. Do not do anything crazy. That's just something random, all right? So this is just initial settings. So password is Thor. We want to get into enable password, which is our secret password for privilege exec. That is Captain America, and bam. Now we are in. Now we're back into the router, so we can start doing some things. So let's start getting into the interfaces. So here's my next command I want to show you. Show IP interface brief. Here we go. And as you can see in this router, there's nothing configured, not even the VLAN, and everything is down. So I have a gigabit Ethernet 000, I have 001 and 002, and then I have my VLAN set here as well, and everything is down. So here's my question to you. How do you know what this cable is attached to? How do we know? So there's some things that you can do. Let me put this on the top. You can take your cursor. I'm sorry, let me close this down. You can take your cursor, and it should show you, kind of give you an idea what's attached to it. Okay. Another thing you can do, you can actually go into physical mode, go into the actual closet. Let me move this stuff out of the way. And you can actually see it this way as well if you want to do this. A little extra work. But this will tell you which interface the router is hooked up to. But typically what I like to do, because I like to stay in the Cisco IOS as much as possible, what I'll do is I'll start shutting down, or excuse me, I'll start typing in the no shut command on these lines to see which one is what. So obviously it's red here. Therefore, there is no, we don't have any communications. So what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to go config T, okay? And I'm going to select this very, very first gigabit Ethernet. So I'm going to type in interface. Okay, I typically like to type in the first 4 letters of the word, hit the tab key. And then I'm going to type in gigabit. There it is, gigabit. And I'm going to select 0-0/0. Make sure you see the if when you press enter. That tells me that you are currently in the configuration mode of the actual Ethernet connection. So I'm going to type in no shut. And let's see if this cable here turns green. It does. It does turn green. So I do know that this cable is attached to interface gigabit Ethernet 000. So I know we just put that as no shut. But we need to configure a gateway on this. Let's configure a gateway. We're going to come back to this. We're going to come back to this in a second. We'll configure that gateway in a second. Let's go into our devices here. Okay, let's go into our devices. We're going to configure that post office box really quick. So let's go in here to this first PC, which actually we're already here. Let's close this down here. Let's go in IP version 4 here, and we're just going to give it a 192.168.1.2 subnet mask of a WAC 24. Now we're going to give it a gateway. I'm going to give it a gateway of 192.168.1.1. Okay, 1.1. This is my gateway. So when I get done, I'm going to go back into my router and configure this cable here as the default gateway. We're also going to set the we're also going to set the switch as a default gateway as well, in case we want to do any remote stuff. Cool. So we got PC1 taken care of. Let's go into PC2. Double click on that once. Configuration, desktop, IP. Let's call this 192.168.1.3 with a WAC 24. And what is our gateway? 192.168.1.1. Same gateway, that same post office. All right, so we're done there. And now let's go into PC number 2, configuration, desktop, IP version 4 here, static. We're going to go 192.168.1. Let's call this .4. Okay, did I already do 4? Yeah, .4 with WAC 25. And then we're going to do 192.168.1.1. Now our gateway is configured on the actual PC computers, which is great. All right. So if we wanted to actually test connectivity really quick, just to kind of double check to make sure these are good, you know, because the switch should be up and running. We see green line cables. We can go into our command prompt and just do a quick little Marco Polo 192.168.1.3, and let's see if we get any connectivity, and yes we do. So we know that we ping this computer, so everything's working in the switch. All the information is working. Everything is good to go. All right, now let's go back to our router because we're going to configure our interface really quick. Uh-oh, I cheated. Go back into this computer. We're going to go to terminal this way. All right, so we're going to configure the gateway, which is the interface 0/0/0/0, because we're still in our interface here. All right. So what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to type in IP address 192.168.1.1. Uh-oh, I screwed that up. Forgot to give it the subnet mask. Why do you need a subnet mask? Because they're all on the same subnet, right? So I typed in IP address 192.168.1.1 with a subnet mask of 255.255.255. Now, one more thing I need to do. I've already typed it already, but typically here I would type in no shut again. Even though it's already not shut down, I'll just type it in again anyway. And just for fun, just want to make sure that make sure I'm on the right interface. I'm going to actually type in the command shutdown, and you will see it shut down, right? But I'm going to go back in there again. I'm going to type in no shut, and everything comes back up and running. So I'm going to give that just a second, because right now what I'm going to do is that I'm going to ping these PCs right here. We're going to ping these PCs just to make sure that we have connectivity. I'm going to kind of wait for this to turn green. That way that tells me everything is good to go. And I'm going to put in my first one here. Let's actually back out of this. Exit. And we're going to ping. Okay, we are green now. Okay. So I'm going to ping 192.168.1.3. Let's see what we get here. We have 80% Marco Polos that were good to go. Let's run it again. And there we go. We have 100%. So if I were to put a simulation on that, you can see, okay. As soon as I send that thing to the switch, it goes out to the switch, and then it goes to PC 0, which is the 192.168.1.3. It sends information back to the switch and says, yep, I got you. Let's send it out. Back of that interface, back to the router, and now we are good to go. So that tells me that the router is configured correctly and the gateway is configured correctly, and this mailbox is good to go. All right. Now, we're not done yet. So let's get in here real quick. Okay. Uh-oh. Don't need all that. Now what we need to do is we need to save everything. Actually, no, right before that, one more thing we need to do. We need to get into config mode, config T. I want to encrypt everything. Let's protect all this. Let's get everything protected as much as possible. So I'm going to type in service password encryption. See that? Service password encryption. Press enter. Now everything should be encrypted as much as possible. So let's go back to exit. Let's go to exit. Here we go. There's our Nick Fury. It's a scroll, so be advised. I'm going to type in Thor because that's our line console. We're going to get into privilege exec. I'm going to type in Captain America. Captain America. Very good. Now I'm going to type in the show running config command, and let's see what type of service password encryption we have. So now we have service password encryption. Before this said no service password encryption. So very good. Now, when I ran this command before, the gigabit interface had no IP address. Now we have an IP address assigned to it, 192.168.1.1 with a subnet mask of a WAC 24. Nothing on 01 because there's nothing connected there. Keep pressing enter. All right. We have our banner of the day that's taken care of. We see that there. Okay. Now, beforehand, remember our line console was Thor. Now there's encrypted numbers there. So can't even see what that is to get in to the password, so to get into the switch, which is very, very important. And we haven't done our V2I lines. No worries on that. Cool. So we got that taken care of. Now we need to copy everything. We need to copy everything, make sure everything is good to go. Copy running config. And we want to copy the startup. So I'm going to type in startup config, press enter. Enter again, and now everything is good to go. And now we have our configuration file saved. So when this thing boots up, again, everything is good to go. Okay, so let's do the same thing to the switch. So we are in the switch here with this console cable. All right, click on this here. Notice it just says switch. Now again, like I told you, the first thing I like to do, typically I like to Type in the show running config file. I just want to see what's in here. I want to see what needs to get done. I want to see what initial configurations, if any, if anything is applicable to the switch. And as we can see, this thing is pretty brand new, right out of the box, right? We just hooked it up. All it's doing is just forwarding frames right now. There's nothing special about it. Not even the VLAN is connected, but this thing has a lot of ports. Notice it says no IP address on there, no shut, all that good stuff, okay? All right. So let's do our initial configurations. Let's configure the host name. We're going to stay on the Marvel thing. We're going to type in config T. Okay. And let's configure host name. And let's call the switch, we're going to call it Marvel. Let's call this one Fantastic 4. That's a lot. But we're just calling it Fantastic 4 just because we're staying with the Marvel. Typically, people just call it S1 for switch 1 or S1 for switch 2. I think Cisco has you do it like that. But just for this, we're just keeping it on that theme. Okay. So we're going to keep it that way. Let's configure the secret password. So we're going to go enable. Enable secret. Let's give it a password. So let's call this one Galactus. Okay, Galactus. As you can see, the new Marvel stuff's coming out, right? And then we're going to call this Galactus. So that's the enable secret password for Galactus. Okay. We're also going to continue going here. We're going to do line console 0. We're going to configure the line console right away. Okay. Notice it says line because we're going to get into this right away. Line console. And we're going to call that password. Okay. And we're going to give it the password name of read. Okay. We're going to type in login. And what we're going to do, we're going to continue with this. We're going to type in, actually, we're going to exit out of that there. Okay. And we're going to start encrypting the passwords. Actually, no, we forgot to do the banner of the day. So we're going to go banner, message of the day. Message of the day. With the @ sign. Let's enter some text here. All right. And I'm going to type in Captain Marvel is the true first Avenger, not Captain America. Stay away. Let me move this over. I won't do that. Okay. And I'm going to add some more little bullets here, little borders. This time I'm going to do it correctly. I'm actually going to finish with the number sign. Press enter. It is the @ sign. Okay. Stop at the @ sign, and there we go. All right. Now what we're going to do is we're going to exit out of this, and we're going to go service. So we need to copy. I'm sorry. Copy running config startup file. So now that's good. And then what we need to do is service. I think we need to get a config mode for that. Config T. Service password encryption. So everything is encrypted so you can't see anything, which is great. So that's good. And we're going to exit. So the next thing we're going to do is configure the default gateway on the switch. So to do that, we're going to type in config T. I'm going to type in IP default gateway, and all I do is hit the tab key. Then I'm going to type in 192.168.1.1, and I'm going to press enter. There we go. Now, one other thing I'm going to do, I'm also going to configure the VLAN. I'm going to give the IP address. I'm going to give the VLAN an IP address as well, so we can kind of test connectivity between the machines that are hooked up. So I'm going to type in interface VLAN 1. I'm going to give it an IP address. We're going to type in IP address. Let's give it 192.168.1. Let's give it a .9. 255.255.255.0. I'm going to press enter, and I'm going to press exit. And I'm going to press exit one more time. So let's do that show running config file. Let's see what we got going on here. We have our host name, Fantastic 4. Our secret password is encrypted, which is good. Let's move down here. We have our different Ethernet adapters here. Now, we see our VLAN. Our VLAN is set to 192.168.1.9, 255.255, which is WAC 24. IP default gateway 192.168.1, all right? We have a line console set. Don't have our remote stuff set up just yet. We'll do that another time. And bam, we're good to go. Now, let's do a ping command, and let's see if this works. We're going to ping 192.168.1.3. Let's see what we got. We have a 100% success rate. So everything is working good. Now, I went on ahead and went in there and enabled the VLAN, which you need to type in no shut for that to happen as well. So I no shut it. But now we're able to test connectivity, which is really, really good. All right. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to conclude Module 10, your basic router configurations. Make sure you are doing those syntax checkers in Cisco. They help very, very much when you're trying to do these initial things. And a lot of repetition, a lot of practice. Open a packet tracer, give yourself a plain slate, open up a couple of devices, put a couple of devices on your screen, a couple intermediate devices, and just practice. It'll help you. All right, so see you on the next video.